Hey everybody, it's James here again with Tabletop Trysts, and On the Fly world building has begun. Yeah, so yesterday we finished up session 2 of Elanatra, doing live streaming of Elanatra, which, well, what's Elanatra? Well, it's a brand new world that I'm building, but here's the catch. It's open source, which means that as I'm building this world out, my players are helping to build the entire world as well. So like you saw a new nation come out by the name of Harane. I didn't make that up. That was completely made up by the players, and we are going to be developing it in real time during these live sessions. So now that we've done a couple live streams, though, I figure let's talk about Elanatra, the world so far. So we're going to break down Elanatra a little bit, and then also go over what's been going on in the story so far. So if you are watching this video, I'm going to have it at the end, and I will have it as a chapter. But spoiler alert, if you do want to watch those live stream sessions without any spoilers, don't watch the end of this video. I will have it timestamped for you just to make sure. But for all of you, we can know a little bit about Elanatra before you even watch this live stream. So let me go over a little bit about the world. So Elanatra is a 5e setting that I've been developing. It exists within the material plane, and the world is dominated by the elements of earth, air, fire, and water, to the point where they are worshipped as gods. And on Elanatra as well, we've got the different genasi, and they're almost like, well, the best way I can describe them is they're like popes for each element. So you have the air genasi, who of course would be the pope over the element of the air. And you have the earth genasi, of course, would be for the earth, and so on and so forth. Now, what's cool about that as well is that the elements, well, it's said that they can actually possess the bodies of some of these genasi in order to bestow direct wisdom onto the people. So it's pretty interesting how they're revered and how that might play out, because I haven't developed more than that so far on that whole relationship. And I'm hoping that will, of course, as time goes on, develop that with my players. Now, magic works as well a little bit differently here in Elanatra. There's going to be a different mechanic involved. I won't go into the actual mechanic on this video, but suffice it to say that when you are a magic user and you're using a specific element of magic, whether it be lightning, whether it be fire, whether it be cold, etc., you develop a bond with that specific element, and that's going to help grow with you and kind of give you more strength whenever you're casting spells of that element. So that's going to be a mechanic that we're going to be working on. And again, we're developing it on the fly as we're going along. So we're going to have that as well. The civilizations that exist on Elanatra, typically they will choose an element, almost like Greek cities in ancient Greece would have a particular deity that they would have as like their patron deity of that city, right? Kind of works the same way with the civilizations here on Elanatra. And the geography, though, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Elanatra has, it's got trees, leaves, sand, water, all that good stuff on the surface. But Elanatra has something a little bit different, because that surface is called the lower lands. And why is it the lower lands? We've got a sky plate hovering above it all. And with the sky plate, it was discovered by Samuel Sador during a rebellion by going into one of these terminals almost from the lower lands, which took him to the Wind Gate, which is in the center of the sky plate. And that allowed him to transport kind of to and from at will different places within the lower lands. And from there, he founded the city of Sidoria. Yeah, I know, it's named after him. What are you going to do, right? Anyway, Sidoria now is the capital of what's called the Four Air Kingdoms. So there are 4 air kingdoms. I'm developing their names and kind of making sure that they sound good, so I'm not going to reveal those just yet. Again, we're developing as we go along, right? But we have the 4 air kingdoms up there. And basically what happened was, once Sidoria kept growing and growing and growing, well, we had some people that kind of had different ideas of how things should be run. So rather than fighting over it, they decided, you know what? We've got plenty of land here. let's just divide it up. So we had 4 different ideologies going on. So they divided it up into 4 different air kingdoms. But here's where it's kind of cool, though, that they're still so peacefully coexistent that they all share the capital city of Sidoria still in the center. Pretty cool. It's not all greatness. There is some strife that is happening. Again, I'm not going to go over it too much in this video because I don't want to reveal everything that Elanatra has to offer. Again, because my players are also playing in it, and I do still have some ideas in development before we actually play the game. You know, there is still strife. There is still some angst. There is still some racial tension, I guess we'll say. But again, more to it. But speaking of race, we'll talk about the species. There's a species that's here native to Elanatra, which is pretty sweet. I call them the Nepotunans, and they have 4 different subspecies. We've got the Sande Nep, the Stone Nep, the Fore Nep, and the Loche Nep. The Nepotunans in general, they really had such an affinity with the earth that they were so bonded with the earth that over time they kind of evolved and took on elements of the actual landscape that they were evolving in. So, for instance, the Stone Nep, they evolved within the mountains. And so they developed mountain rock-like features. So they've got very stony skin, very gray, sometimes blotches of black on that gray. And there's some cool mechanics, again, that I'm making up, some cool kind of features that we'll be sliding in during the live streams. So you won't be hearing them here, but my players already know what those features are, and of course we'll be able to implement them, which is kind of cool. And then you also have the Fore Nep, and just like it sounds, they evolved within the forest. So they've got, you know, a lot of times these brown bark-like skin. Sometimes there's a little bit of green in there. There's almost like foliage growing off of them, these leaves that typically are green, but during Elanatra's kind of autumnal season, they will start to change colors and have oranges and reds and browns kind of within them too, which is kind of neat. And it does also give them some benefits, but also some drawbacks as well, which again, we'll wait for some players to be able to reveal that over time. Then you've got the Sande Nep. And the Sande Nep, they're from the deserts. So they kind of evolved taking on sandy-like skin, not even just in the color, but also in the texture. And it was rumored that some of them, legend has it, could actually dissolve themselves into sand and move at will about and reconstitute themselves. That's legend so far, so we don't know if that's actually fact or fiction in this fictional world. Anyway, but then we also have the Loche Nep, which we're just now starting to develop. I had to make it up on the fly because somebody was like, hey, by the way, you know, I kind of want to be a water one. I'm like, oh, shoot, I should probably make that up then. So we have the Loche Nep. And the Loche Nep, of course, they came from the water, which, again, they've got very, like, kind of blue skin, but the skin is kind of almost a little bit translucent, and you'll see sometimes almost like waviness within the skin. That's all I've developed so far with them. But we do, again, have some traits, some drawbacks, some little bits of fun stories that we could do. So the stories so far, let's talk about where we've been at. Again, this is where the spoilers are going to start to kick in, so make sure to stop and go ahead and go over to the live streams and watch those beforehand if you don't want anything spoiled for you. Okay, everybody who's here comes the spoilers. So we're going to go over some of the locations that came through in the last 2 live streams, and we'll talk about our characters, because that's another great thing that I'm loving so far. I mean, I built a couple species, or the subspecies here of the Nepotunans, and pretty much every player wanted to be a Sande Nep. And that just is so cool because in my world as well, we still do have the other standard races. You know, we have the humans, we have the elves, we have half-elves, we have dwarves, we have gnomes, so on, halflings. They could have picked any species that they wanted, but they chose Sande Nep, the one that I'm making up. It's really cool. Let's go over it. Let's dive right in. Session 1 started off with our party being summoned to the Skyplate, because the Sande Nep, they all live in the lower lands. So they got summoned to the Skyplate, to the High Capitolier's castle, and they're met by a privy councilor, and he tells them that the High Capitolier heir has gone missing in the Forest of Self-Revelation. This is a problem because the High Capitolier, the current High Capitolier, has passed away, and that is why his son is gone. His son was supposed to go into the Force of Self-Revelation to be ready to go, So that way you can come out and become the next leader of Sidoria and by default, the leader of the Skyplate. Yeah, he was supposed to be back 2 days ago. Okay. So this privy counselor is like, guys, I called you here because I'm going to need your help. Heard you all can find some people. Let's work together here. Let's find this guy before the ceremony, because if he's not there for that inauguration, there's going to be panic in the streets. There'll be absolute anarchy breaking out, right? So after some discussion, of course, some negotiation, the party does agree to go. And they do get some information about the forest. And the forest, this forest is no joke. So it's called the Forest of Self-Revelation. And there's not much public knowledge on it, but this privy counselor does make them sign this blood oath saying that they're not going to repeat what's about to be recited to them. They all sign. So yay for that. My DM thoughts are kicking in. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm making a video. Here we go. Okay, back to it. So he makes them sign this blood oath, swearing that they're not going to tell the soul what they're about to hear. And he recounts this documentarian that goes into the forest. It's bad news, okay? It drives people absolutely insane. This documentarian, even at the end, says, if you do plan to go into the forest, you might as well get a deposit down at the sanitarium, because once you get out, if you get out of that forest, you are going right into that sanitarium, I'm sure. Okay. So this place is bad news, no joke. This privy council, even after he recounts it, he kind of seems exhausted, as if he was in there himself. That's how like profound this forest is. Even reciting somebody else's story of it physically exhausts you. Well, party's in for a treat, right? So they do get some more information over at the Fragrant Stench Pub, and this is kind of a fun location. So this is hanging out in kind of the seedier area of Sidoria. So where do you go if you want to find out more information that's not publicly known? Well, you go to the seedier area and you pop into a pub. And nothing is better than the Fragrant Stench. They also get another job, apparently. They drop a copper into this table in the back, and this sound hole comes up, and it's the Sodality of Shadow. Now, these guys, their name implies that they're bad news, and, well, their name is correct. They are bad news. But, hey, who am I to judge? I only created them. So the Sodality of Shadow needs some people in the forest as well, oddly enough, and they recruit the party. So now we've got some interesting stuff. They didn't realize, or they didn't reveal why they're going into this forest. So who knows what this job is that they've accepted. So they do go for that. Not before, though, they receive some information from the bar owner, who tells them that he may or may not know of somebody who may or may not have gone into the forest, may or may not have come out quite insane, and may or may not be in the sanitarium now. So the party's like, all right, we got to get all the information we can on this place, okay? So they head out to the sanitarium, and this sanitarium, I mean, it's run awfully. I mean, you come out, I mean, there's overgrown bushes everywhere, vines are just choking everything, the walls look like they're crumbling down, and there's patients in the courtyard with, dead gardens, grass is overgrown, and these patients are just walking around aimlessly. And the door's not locked to the front. They walk right in, meet some more patients. And again, all the doors are open at this sanitarium, which should be, I don't know, maybe secure. Not so much. Let's backtrack a little bit because I already missed it. Take two. In the courtyard, they may have stumbled upon a new face. And we meet a Condé Nast rogue by the name of Buttercup, who revealed that she was hiding because she saw these Condé Nast, who are her own people. And she hid because, well, she's been getting experimented on. There's another rumor from the Condé Nast that some grew spikes and that they could actually launch these spikes out at will and regrow them. So she's been getting experimented on. So she escaped. And so she's hiding until she realized, okay, these people are okay. I think we're all right. And she joins them. So, okay, back to the lobby. So they're going to the lobby, got patients all over. Some of them, though, it's a little, Our bard actually ended up kind of picking up little hints that there's this tiefling who seems to be acting insane, but maybe not quite as insane as she's acting. The plot thickens. Another thing that happens, though, they notice that there's no staff. There's no staff. So naturally, they go to ask for help. And next thing you know, they have this piercing screaming in their brains. And then there's this force trying to push them down, and they fight it. Okay, but they look around and all the patients are just nose down. And then they hear this weird bell in their head and the patients just get back up as if nothing happened. But here's the thing. They act like nothing happened, except one of the patients had exploded when he whimpered. So that happened. But these patients act like nothing's wrong. But they continue on, and eventually our new rogue friend finds, well, another rogue, funny enough. We've got Sheila, who is searching for answers from her uncle, who is possibly lost in the forest. And so now we've got a party of 6. Pretty awesome stuff. And as they're looking around, they discover that there is one locked door, and it's the office. And so they do manage to get into the office, and they see this crystal chest, and there's an orb inside, and it's glowing, and our wizard ends up checking, detecting that magic, and he starts to see these weaves all over the place, kind of encompassing the entire sanitarium. But he also feels a thread that could be going out towards the High Capitolier's castle. There's other kind of issue here too. As he's detecting this magic, he's detecting, different types of magic that we're detecting. We're detecting abjuration. We're detecting illusion. We're detecting even conjuration. But then also there's just the slightest hint of necromancy. And now here's the thing. Anybody who's played D&D, when you think of necromancy, I mean, that's usually, it can be some pretty bad news. On Ella Natra, though, it's outright illegal to practice necromancy because, again, they're so focused on the natural order of things, natural being the key word. Necromancy to them, not natural. So it's outlawed, banned, illegal, but he detects a hint of it. So it's a little bit interesting that we've got this thread going to the High Capitolier's castle with a hint of necromancy. Okay. But we'll move on. We go to open this chest, and of course there's a shock because, hey, it's magically sealed. But then our barbarian soldier prince decides, I'm just going to grab the thing. He gets a little bit of a shock, but you know what? We're playing through the pain. He's got it. He tosses it, breaks the chest, punts the orb out. And so the ones who are acting crazy, they're like, oh, great, we're good. The ones who aren't actually crazy, there's still a few that are quite insane. Meaning one of the people who's still insane happens to be Auremir, who is the one who allegedly went into the forest. Now, here's where it gets a little bit interesting, and this is where our rule of cool, mad, okay? I'm one of those DMs, I will bend every rule if it's going to make for a cool story, and this ended up being pretty sweet. We had our ranger decide, because he had a potion of mind reading, drink the potion of mind reading to start to figure out, okay, what's going on in this guy's head, and he starts to hear, these screams and these just outright shouts of just saying you're not worthy to this guy. He comes up with a pretty nifty idea, and he asked me, he goes, what if I cast message? Now, compiling it, I don't know, but you know what? As a DM, I'm like, let's do this. Let's make something up here, though, okay? So we've got, a continual roll that we're going to have to do that I make up. He has to do charisma. He argues with me, though. He's like, hey, shouldn't it be wisdom? Because I'm in his head. But no, here's the thing. I'm like, here's how this is working, though. You're already in his head. You're reading his mind. You're trying to convince him in his mind to follow your voice. So because of that, you're persuading him. So I made him do charisma check. All right. This guy, he fails. He fails the charisma check. But I literally asked him, how bad do you want to try to get this guy out of here? And I gave him an inspiration point on credit because I wanted to see this. This was kind of cool how he was kind of thinking. I was like, I did not think mind reading and then use message on top of mind reading to kind of work it through. So we made up a thing. He failed the first one. He did the inspiration. He got bardic inspiration from our bard friend, of course, and that did it. He matched it. DC of 18, he got an 18. And so he starts to come, right? He's like, yeah, follow me. He does this. It was so awkward, him trying to get him to follow him. I was like, okay, your debt's paid. Point of inspiration is good. And so he fails the next check. And this guy turns around and starts to leave. I give him one more chance. He matches it. I'm like, okay, now you just got to get a 14, man. Let's see what happens. He nat 20s it. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's out. He gets out. This guy, he comes back. He's like, what year is it? He's still kind of discombobulated, hugs the crap out of our ranger. And then our bard's like, oh, by the way, if you want to pay us back, yeah, you're coming back to the forest that drove you insane. And of course, he rolled friggin' high. So I had to be like, all right, fine. So Audemir, who went insane in the forest, is now going back to the forest with our party. Yeah, he's not happy about it. He kind of describes it as the best way he can kind of describe it is he talks about it being, imagine the worst day of your life, right? The most painful experience you've ever experienced. Have that thought playing on repeat in your head over and over again, nonstop, the whole time for the rest of your life. That's what the woods are doing to you in there. And so, he's basically telling him like, dude, this is not a good idea, but my player rolled high, so he's going with them. And that's where we are so far. So there's some interesting things happening in Ella Natra, some interesting characters, some interesting locations. And again, I want to tell everybody, this is completely done, most of it on the fly. I've prepared some things in advance, some of these locations, some characters here and there, but for the most part, not really. My players are contributing just as much to building the world as I am. Here's what it's also getting interesting, though, is that during the live streams, I'm working on getting a better setup to follow the chat, because what I want to start doing is having on-the-fly world building with the people watching. I want you all to help contribute to Ella Natra. So I'm giving you an invitation that anytime we live stream, which is going to be Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern, pop on, watch what's happening. If I'm doing something, if I'm making up a mechanic, if, we're going to a location that doesn't have a name yet, start throwing out those names. Throw out some mechanics. Throw out some suggestions on where we should go. Throw out some suggestions on some NPCs that we might meet. Throw out some suggestions on a big bad guy. Anything is on the table because Ella Natra is completely open source. It's going to be completely player created. It's going to be player driven. And I want everybody to be in on this. So make sure that you go onto the live stream every Monday at 6 p.m. If you haven't caught up on the live stream before, hopefully this video caught you up. Otherwise, go back to the live streams and you can watch them. I did set up some timestamps in there to make it a little bit easier to get through, especially the beginnings where there is technical difficulties, because while I am a total noob when it comes to live streaming on YouTube. Yes, I did make it rhyme. I'm a dad. I'm allowed. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that Ella Natra is interesting. I really hope that it's filled with possibilities. And I hope that you're able to start utilizing Ella Natra as soon as possible. Bring it to your table. We're going to be working on getting all the content up. But until then, stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe so that way you're updated when we do have those live streams coming out. And thank you for sharing the secret with me.